Oh, I see us. I see us.
It's been clunky.
We're there. We're ready to rock.
All right, let's hit play.
So we're live. We're live.
We are.
Okay.
Yeah, from this moment forward, whatever you say can be used against you. Oh, that's so sweet.
Waking up is a dream to me. When I turn my head and I see you still by my side, girl, it brings me so much joy. This love is not a perfect thing. I can't promise it will be easy, but I'll try to keep our love employed. I'll never let you
Welcome everyone at 6 o'clock on Monday night. And you're listening to the 76th installment of the Age Out Angels Radio Hour on www.hamiltonradio.net. I love that music we were just listening to. It's actually, my guest, Brad Jackson, tonight is a wonderful vocalist, and he brought these tracks with him. And I have to tell you, Brad, it's making me just want to talk slower. And it's changed my whole mental attitude.
Oh man, we need the mood lighting in here now.
That's right, exactly. I'm glad I brought my wife with me tonight.
Oh, that's fun.
I'm your host, by the way, Greg Rapport. I'm the founder and executive director of Age Out Angels, a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. Age Out Angels provides one-to-one mentors to vulnerable youth for the purpose of coordinating the care and services that they need to survive. We try to help youth avoid some of the horrible pitfalls that they're likely to face if they don't have a proper safety net. This program is brought to you every week at this same time, courtesy of Doc G, William Saunders, Ruben Rodriguez, and the fine people here at Hamilton Radio who allow us to use this airtime. Ruben is on the big board tonight. Robin is back with us producing. So good to see you both, and thank you so much at home for tuning in. We've put together what I hope you will find to be an insightful and compelling view of the child welfare system. So get ready, because tonight on the radio hour, the circus is in town.
Yes,
Brad
we are.
M.
Yes.
Jackson, the new director of operations at the Trenton Circus Squad, and quite a performer in his own right, will join me in just a few minutes for his interview. And Catherine Colhoun, Director of Community Resource Development for a fabulous organization called the Ocean Partnership for Children Incorporated, will be calling in later in the program. We're hoping to hear from Kimmy Carlos in just a minute. This is our first show live. Back after 7 weeks. I hope everyone out there saw the shows that we pre-recorded. I'd like to rebroadcast several of them that I thought were particularly substantive. The one we did about lead in the environment with the good people from Isles. I thought that was just amazing in its content. Lead is a topic that affects everyone everywhere, and if you didn't see that show the first time, I hope you will look into it when we rebroadcast it. So right now, if you haven't found us on Facebook, please do, and share this with all of your friends. Hit that share button, or even better, email everyone in your address book and tell them to go to www.hamiltonradio.net, channel 2. Tell the world what we're doing here. I'll bet what you're going to hear tonight is, in fact, indicative of any urban area near where you live. What we talk about here has universal application and deserves to be shared. So don't keep this private to yourself. Help us share it. Tell your friends. And while you're doing that, let me remind you that we're here almost every Monday from 6 to 7 p.m. with the Age Out Angels Radio Hour. We have a great lineup of guests coming up in the weeks to come. March 11th, attorney Randy Mandelbaum and Judith Shane will be here. Then they'll be followed by Antonia Garcia from the University of Pennsylvania. He returns to us on March 18th to discuss the progress of his research. And on March 25th, Lennon Moore from Covenant House, and the list just goes on. Great lineup. Be sure to tune in every Monday at 6 p.m. for our unfiltered look at the child welfare system. This is where you come to get the whole truth, and I promise what you will hear tonight is not going to be found on the nightly news. And since we're live, you know, you can do anything to us. You can write us silly things. You can call in. You can do anything you want during the show. You can send me comments or questions on Facebook. Call in if you want to join the conversation. Be a part of the show if you like. The call-in number is 609-807-2492. So much has happened while we're away. I almost don't know where to start, but I'll try. Do we have a phone call coming in right now? I was kind of expecting Kimmy Carlos to call in right around this time. Is that her on the line? Give us 1 second to answer this phone before I get started with a whole story. And there was silence on the radio. Can you put it through?
Try again?
Hey, hi,
Oh, I know
Kimmy,
it's
is that
wrong.
you?
Oh, I know it's wrong. Hold on.
No, something's wrong? Okay.
Hello, hi. Thank you for calling Asia Angels of Great Report. Who's calling? Hello? Hi. Hey. Okay, there you go.
Okay, so we're on. Kimmy, is that you?
Yes, it's Kimmy.
It's Kimmy, okay.
I'm gonna finish you right through, Kimmy. Thank you for calling in.
Hi, Kimmy. Are you there?
Can you hear it?
Kimmy? Can't hear you. I'm gonna tell people about you while we're waiting to get the line patched in.
Hold on
Kimmy
one
is the
second,
executive
Kimmy. Yeah,
director of the
Getting
Urban Mental
connected
Health
here.
Alliance in the
Why am I
Trenton
not
area.
getting
Hi, Kimmy. I think I hear you now. And then you went away.
You see-
Okay. And
can't
so
hear you?
Kimmy's having a special event. I believe it's this Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. And her guest at this event is her father. And her father is a very special guy that those of us who were running around in 1968 remember quite well.
Hi, Kimmy. Oh.
No, that's me. You've got me. And
Try again, Greg?
Kimmy, are you there?
Try again, Greg?
Try again, Kimmy. And it's just a matter of pushing the right button. It's just that there are so many buttons. It looks a lot like a spaceship. Kimmy, can you hear me? She may be hearing me, but
I can't really hear anything. It sounds like very faint. I hear voices.
and now we hear you loud and clear. Is that better? When things go right. How about now, Kimmy? Can you hear me now? Oh, no.
Better, but it still sounds like you're in a wind tunnel.
We're making a Verizon commercial. Can you hear me now?
It seems to be getting better. You're making some progress.
Oh, we're getting better. Good. We're flying closer.
Oh, good. All of a sudden, I hear you now.
We were 20 miles out. Kimmy Carlos, ladies and gentlemen. Kimmy, you're the founder and executive director of the Urban Mental Health Alliance, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And you've been a guest on this show before. And
I have, and thank you very much for inviting me again.
oh, you bet. But what I didn't know about you is this whole thing about your famous father.
Yes.
was
Yes, indeed.
What was it like growing up in a household with a famous dad?
You know, it's so interesting because that's always the first question that I get.
Yeah.
But to us, he wasn't Dr. John Carlos. He was Dad. We
Right.
knew that he was iconic. We knew that he was passionate about social justice. But for us, he was Dad. We saw him get up and go to work every day. He instilled work ethic in us. He, always told us that we were no better and no less than anybody else. And he really shielded myself and my siblings from a lot of the backlash and struggles that my parents, dealt with because of the demonstration. So I don't think myself and my siblings really recognized how powerful the demonstration was until we became adults.
Yeah, and for people out there who don't have a reference point for what we're talking about, Kimmy's dad, John Carlos, won the bronze medal at the 1968 Olympics in Mexico City for track and field. And at the podium, he and the gold medal winner was Tommy Smith, put on gloves and raised their fists in what was called a Black Power salute. at the time, and absolutely shook the world. And you know the question I've wanted to ask him for about 25 or 30 years? No, they say no one remembers the silver medalist.
Right.
Well, here, John won the bronze medal, and he got all the backlash. Tommy Smith didn't see, at least my perspective at the time, was that Tommy Smith, the gold medalist, he sort of disappeared into history, and it's remembered as what John Carlos did. Do you have a sense of what that's all about?
Yep, you're absolutely correct about that. So let me start by talking about Peter Norman, who is a phenomenal man in his own right. Peter Norman took the second place silver medal, and Peter very much supported the movement that was going across the 1968 Olympics. He understood oppression. He recognized oppression in his own home country in Australia, and he fully supported the protest that the black athletes were demonstrating across the Olympics. Most people don't realize that there was actually protests and demonstrations all the way through the 1968 Olympics. It's just that the demonstration that my dad and Tommy Smith did on the podium was much more prominent and much more recognizable because they did it during the national anthem.
Right.
But Peter Norman received a lot of backlash when he went back to his home country as well, because he refused to denounce them, and he, completely supported the work that they were doing, and then went on to do a lot of civic and social justice work in his own country because he was inspired by that. And so the question that you asked me is actually the question that I asked my dad one time as a young adult. Why did our family, and he specifically, have so much backlash towards us, and it seemed like Tommy Smith really didn't have that. And my dad put it quite simply and succinctly. He said, because I've been willing to speak out, because I've always had a voice, because I've never shied away from it, because I've always told the truth, and because I've kept the oppression of black people in the forefront of people's minds. And a lot of people don't like that. So it's very easy to kind of fade into the background, but my father never did that. He refused to do that. And to this day, he's always been very forthright about the very hard conversations that we need to have around the history in this country and the oppression that continues to, rear its ugly head in athletics and basically every fabric of the American country.
Absolutely. Now, I'm sure there are a million parallels drawn between what he did back then and what happened when Colin Kaepernick kneeled during the national anthem in the NFL. Now, Colin Kaepernick was at least able to get his message out that the reason he was kneeling, was in protest of the unequal treatment that African Americans were receiving in I think it was really law enforcement that he was specifically protesting against.
Right.
Now back in '68, when your dad did his demonstration, it was just simply perceived as a threat that they were doing this because of black power, and to white people back then, black power meant white people being oppressed. And they
Still does.
They were ready to give that up in any way. But the point is that, what was the real thinking there? I know there was more substance behind that than just black power.
Right. So let's back up a little bit and talk about Colin Kaepernick. So he was not protesting law enforcement.
No.
We actually have law enforcement in our family. My son is an Iraqi vet and a Philadelphia police officer. So we strongly believe in law enforcement, and we believe in the military. Just about every male uncle and cousin in my family is a military or has been a military member and is a vet. So we strongly support the military and law enforcement. However, what Colin Kaepernick and all of us who believe in fighting oppression have really been trying to bring voice to is police brutality. Okay. And the systemic racism that we see that has really been ingrained in law enforcement because that's the way they're trained and that's the culture. So that's what he's fighting against. The movement at the 1968 Olympics, specifically on the podium with my dad and Tommy Smith, was much broader. It was about the oppression in black America. So it had to do with brutality from law enforcement. It had to do with a strategic oppression around finances. It had to do with strategic oppression around housing. It had to do with bigotry and racism and prejudice. It had to do with the fact that whole urban communities were suffering from drug infiltration and subpar housing, environmental issues. You know, my father always speaks about how people don't realize that he was a young man, 23 years old, with a young wife. My mother was 22, and I was 3. I was the only one of my siblings that was born at that time. And he went to the Olympics with no money in his pocket. He left the Olympics still worrying how he was going to feed his family, the same way he worried about it before he went to the Olympics. And so for him, it was ironic, you know, that he and Tommy Smith were being showcased as, you know, these Olympic heroes, when he knew in his heart, and Tommy Smith knew in his heart, and every other black athlete knew in their heart, that that's not how we were treated at home.
Right.
And he was going to leave Mexico City still trying to figure out how he was going to feed his family, how he was going to get a job. He had witnessed a lot of backlash simply because people weren't excited about a black man reaching the level of prominence that he had reached in track and field. So it was much broader. It was about oppression overall. It was about equity and justice. It was about bringing voices to the pain and the trauma that black people across the country had been suffering and continue to suffer. And that's why he spent the last 50 years of his life, you know, working really hard to give voice to this. And it's disheartening, clearly, to see that Colin Kaepernick is still fighting the same battle and is still receiving the same backlash and still receiving the same oppression, you know, that my dad dealt with 50 years ago. It's really easy to look at that, Greg, and say, have we made any progress?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. My next question, I mean, lots of times what happens is, if you compare 1968 to today, you see there is indeed more opportunity, but people often falsely equate more opportunity with problem solved.
Yeah, there's a difference between opportunity and equity, right?
Right.
So, yes, there's always opportunity, but, you know, for every person of color, whether it's black, Latino, East Asian, you know, Caribbean, you know, for every person of color who has made it, quote unquote, or who has had opportunity given to them, you have whole generations that are still living under oppression. And oppression is so deeply ingrained, you know, in the fabric of our country that many of us don't recognize it.
Yeah.
And we don't realize that we're complacent in it. And what happens is those who do give voice to it are vilified, you know.
Absolutely.
So that's what makes it, you know, difficult. Those who have the conviction, you know, to really bring voice to it are often squashed, which is why I do, you know, the work that I do around mental health, because you can imagine the trauma and the anxiety and the depression, you know, and the PTSD that
Right.
A lot of people of color, you know, have suffered because of what we deal with in the country.
That's true. That oppression manifests in a lot of different ways, and mental health is certainly one of them. So tell us about your event that's coming up now. Is that this Saturday?
It is this Saturday. I'm so excited. So the name of the event is A Father-Daughter Conversation on Mental Health, Social Justice, and a Hope for Tomorrow. And I'm going to be sitting down with my dad at Princeton University on Saturday, March 9th at 3 p.m. to have a conversation on just that, mental health and social justice, and really talk to my dad about what he sees for the future. My father has about a dozen grandchildren, and he and his wife have been blessed with about 5 great-grandchildren as well.
Wow. And
so, you know, they're already looking into the future now to see, okay, what is our hope for our, you know, grandchildren and great-grandchildren as the Carlos legacy continues to grow, you know, because we have all committed to continuing to do my father's work around social justice. So for me, my work around social justice is mental health, because mental health in Black America and mental health in urban America is a social justice issue. And so I do a lot of work in that area, empowering people to understand what mental health is, to recognize oppression and how that affects mental health, and empower people, for self-care, self-advocacy, and making sure that they know how to manage their mental health in spite of a lot of the struggles, that we have. I'm very passionate about that. Everybody who knows the history knows that I lost my mother, my father's first wife. My brother and I, we lost our mother to suicide 10 years after the Olympics. We can look back now and realize that she more than likely had undiagnosed post-traumatic stress disorder, and we didn't talk about mental health in Black America in 1978, and we didn't have the treatments and the therapies back then that we have today. So I'm really passionate about this. Had a conversation with my dad around it, asked him if he would come and join us here in New Jersey, just to sit down and have a conversation with me around, social justice, mental health, and how he sees the connection between the two, and what are his thoughts for the future? What's going to happen in the next 50 years? Clearly he'll be gone, I'll be gone. What do we want for our children and grandchildren that are coming up behind us? What hope do we give them? What inspiration do we give them? To stay in the fight, to stay in the struggle, for equity, for justice across the board. So not just Black America, but anybody and everybody who's oppressed. How do we encourage our next generations to do that work?
So before we let you go, I want you to tell everyone where to go and how to get tickets for it.
Yes. So again, it is a father-daughter conversation on mental health, social justice, and a hope for tomorrow. Princeton University, March 9th at 3 p.m. It's going to be held in McCormick Hall 101. The name of my nonprofit is the Urban Mental Health Alliance. Urban Mental Health Alliance. You can go to our Facebook page, or you can go to our website under that name, Urban Mental Health Alliance. And we are it's open to the public, and we're accepting donations at the door, so there's no set price. If you walk in and say, I have $1, we'll be happy to have you join us. And all donations go directly to my nonprofit and the work that we do in the Mercer County area here in New Jersey.
Excellent. Kimmy, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Please tell your father we have nothing but respect for the gentleman, and hope to see you at your event.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I look forward to coming back on the show again. Have a great evening.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was Kimmy Carlos from the Urban Mental Health Alliance. I interviewed her for about an hour and didn't know that was her dad. about a year ago. It's like, whoa. She certainly has her own identity.
Absolutely. She's a very powerful speaker.
She's a powerful woman. Yes, indeed. But wow, what depth of background. So sitting next to me is BRADD M. Jackson. When it comes to all of the nonprofits that are in this area and in other areas, there's a lot of good ones who do a lot of good work. But the Trenton Circus Squad, that's in a class by itself.
It's different.
It's magic.
Yeah,
the circus is a magical place. Performers and audiences alike can lose themselves, right, in feats of like live fantasy. And the reason I'm gushing is because, in an urban environment characterized by everything Kimmy just described, trauma, the circus captivates the mind and makes everyone forget their troubles.
Just for a little bit.
For just a little while. And my guest is BRADD M. Jackson. He is the new director of operations for the Trenton Circus Squad.
And a fun job it is.
And welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the Age Out Angels Radio.
It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to hear you speak. And I'm blessed to be able to hear these conversations that you're having.
Yeah.
These are very powerful conversations with some very powerful people, and the perspective is just wide-ranging. It's nice to hear other advocates who are in the fight.
It's important stuff, and I hope people will share it
Absolutely.
out there. Just because BRADD and I are doing an interview right now doesn't mean you can't hit that share button.
Please share.
Right?
Please share.
Because this is important stuff. I just want to alert the producer that when we take a break, if we could play more of BRADD's tracks. What was the name of that song we heard?
That song was called Love Will Find a Way.
Love will find a way. We need more of that.
Absolutely.
I think in general. So, all right. So where were you before the Circus Squad? I think I met you at a Mill Hill event.
You did.
Right?
I worked at Mill Hill. I was the communications and development coordinator over at Mill Hill.
Okay.
And I was running the stakeholders meetings.
Yes. Okay.
And so we met at the stakeholders
That's right.
meetings. But I was working with Calvin and help him put those meetings together and make sure he had everything he needed so they could run fluently.
Okay. All right. So you were working there, and then so how did it come over for you to be at the Circus Squad?
Oh wow, that was a God thing. That was a God thing. I had been looking for a new position for well over a year, and I got to the point where I was actually tired of looking for new positions. You know, you get turned down enough, you know, it starts to wear on you, and I was at the point where I was like, you know what, I'm going to give it a break, and this was probably September. I was like, I'm going to pick back up maybe February and start looking again. But right now, I was working 2 part-time jobs, and I was like, you know what? I don't feel like I'm doing the best I can do with what I have in my hands right now. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to work these 2 jobs, and I'm going to give them my best and just devote my time to that. As you know, you kind of lose things when you're searching for something else. You may not be managing what you have properly. And so that was the case. And then next thing I know, Calvin, Mr. Thomas, he sends me over this job description for this position. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't know. I've already, you know, it's about 2 weeks later after I made that commitment. And I was like, you know, I'm kind of over it. I don't want to interview anymore. And he was like, no, you should apply. So I applied for the job and interviewed with Zoe Brooks, who's
one of the founders.
Yeah, one of the co-founder, executive director, outgoing executive director. She's actually going to be leaving us April 1st as our, 31st is our last, March 31st is our last. So we interviewed. I interviewed with the board and went around, and she called me and said, you know what, we want to hire you for the position.
Wow.
And that's exactly what I said. Wow.
Yeah. So, all right. So to fill people in who may not be familiar with the Circus Squad, this is a place where children go after school and on weekends.
Right.
Right.
Well, after school.
Okay.
After school.
And learn actual circus skills.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We do workshops from 4 to 5:30 every day, Monday through Friday. We have different levels. We have 6 through 11. Those are the young people who come from YMCA, CYO, Catholic Charities. They come from different organizations to us, and we teach them circus skills from 4 to 5:30, free of charge, free for everybody. We have squad members that come in and they learn from 5:30 to 7. They work on their skills to be, you know, be it high wire acrobatics, juggling, clowning, dance.
Is that great? I want to do this so bad I could taste it.
Yeah, right. I mean, anything that a real circus do, minus the animals, and actually they don't even do animals anymore, but, you know, we're capable of doing.
Yeah.
So that's when you're 12, and as you get better, you're allowed to get on our road squad. And what our road squad does, we travel all over New Jersey, Camden, Newark. We even go as far as San Diego, Chicago for, you know, the special interest ones who are eligible and who have a certain skill set. We allow them to travel to different programs outside of New Jersey. But we have a team called Road Squad, and if you have a certain proficiency and skill set in certain circus skills, then we allow you to go out into the community with us and perform.
Yeah.
And then after you age out, 18 years old, you become eligible to be hired as a junior coach with us. So there's different tiers, and one of the main points is to be able to provide social emotional help, teach kids about persevering, teach kids about just get them the help that they need in whatever they need.
It's deeper than just juggling.
Right?
Absolutely. I mean there's team building skills
that's
here.
That's the backdrop for all of that. You know, the
Yeah.
circus skills and teaching you that is a backdrop for teaching you how to persevere through challenges.
Absolutely.
You know, and once you're eligible, you have an opportunity to be employed by us, which is another perk and another a way of giving back to the community.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, you were hired as the director of development.
Director of operations.
Of operations. Okay. So that means you're just overseeing all the little component parts.
Yes.
You know, that go into this every day. So, I mean, is that a full-time job?
That's a full-time job.
Yeah.
It's a full-time job. But I'm loving it. I love it. You know, to be able to interact with the young people, I was over at Mill Hill the other day, and it was like, man, I see you more now than I did when you worked here. And I was like, because when I worked here, I was in the office. Now I'm like the man of the people. Like I'm networking, and I'm working with all the organizations within the community and outside of the community. I'm sitting in all these meetings and seeing who does what, when, and where, and hopefully being a part of the solution.
Absolutely. Spreading the love.
Spreading the love.
Spreading the love. When Zoe was here on the show, she promised me that soon there would be an adult component to this, and that I would learn how to run around in a clown car with a bottle of seltzer in my pants. Is there the possibility of that?
That is a strong
happening?
possibility. That's in the future. That's in the
Okay.
future. What we have started doing is community nights.
I'm not getting younger.
You're
I'm
not
just
getting
saying.
younger. Well, you can absolutely come to our community nights. We normally do those on Fridays. You have to check on our website to see when our next one is. We just finished one. I believe it was February 22nd was our last one.
Yeah, I
And
was
we-
away. I noticed that. I
Yeah.
was traveling.
And
yeah.
we had partnered with Freedom Skate. And they would use one side of our building, and they would do the BMX and bike, the skateboard, and we would do our circus activities. And all the adults and the children are welcome to come free and try out the circus.
Tell people how to find you online so that they can find
TrentonCircusSquad.org.
TrentonCircusSquad.org.
Yeah, just as it sounds.
And from that website they'll be able to know how to sign up for the program. And
Everything's
all that kind of stuff.
everything's on the website.
Good. Listen, we're going to take a short break here. Do you have one of Brad's tracks queued up and ready to go? I want people to hear him. This has nothing to do with the Circus Squad. This is his whole other life.
Yeah.
But let's listen. We'll be back in a minute.
Waking up is a dream to me. When I turn my head and I see you still by my side, girl, it brings me so much joy. This love is not a perfect thing. I can't promise it will be easy, but I'll try to keep a love employed. I'll never let you walk alone, baby, hold my hand. Wherever you take your breath, I'll go home, girl, until the end. If darkness makes you lose sight of us, I'll be the light of hope. I'm not giving up, girl, I love comes once in a blue moon. Baby, let's keep trying. Talk like we're friends. If that what we're fighting, forgive and forget. Keep our love growing, full of romance. No matter what mistakes we make, love will find a way. Baby, let's keep trying. Talk like we're friends. If that what we're fighting, forgive and forget.
And we are back with Brad M. Jackson. This isn't a music show, but I love music myself. And
Appreciate it.
I love playing new artists. And I got to tell the people out there, if you remember Tabitha Elizabeth James, she just sent me a couple of new tracks that I'm going to be playing in the weeks to come.
Okay.
She wrote a song called Frenemies. You're too young to know this, but back when I was a teenager, there was a song, I think it was by the OJs, and it was called The Backstabbers.
I know that song.
You do you? Of
course.
Okay, so Frenemies is like the X-rated version of The
Of
Backstabbers.
Backstabbers.
It's like she's pissed. She's like really mad. And Ruben, how much cursing are we actually allowed to do on this show?
Hold on 1 second. You're actually, if you listen to Animal House Radio, you'll find out how much cursing you can do.
Oh, so plenty? Is that what you're saying? Because Frenemies is just, she's mad. I'm telling you. Do we have a caller?
Yes, we do. We have Katie.
Katie, are you there? Can you hear me?
Hold on 1 second.
We're waiting.
Sure.
We're waiting for Katie. I'll bet a lot of people have waited for Katie.
Okay.
Hi, Katie. Are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, it's so
How
good
are
to
you?
hear from you. I'm fine, thanks. I'm sitting here with Brad Jackson from the Trenton Circus Squad.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am well.
So, Katie, you're on the other side of the state from us. We're in Trenton on the west side of the state. You are in Monmouth County?
Ocean County.
Ocean County, eastern side of the state, correct?
Yep, right by the water.
So,
Yep.
so do you guys have, I know you're plugged into every possible opportunity for young people. Do you have anything at all over there like the Trenton Circus Squad where kids can learn circus events and team building and stuff like that?
Not specifically a circus squad. That sounds pretty awesome. But, the ninja stuff, that comes up quite a bit. And that's like the newer fad. But circus
What's
squad
the-
would be great.
What's the ninja stuff?
Yeah, like the Ninja Warrior. So we have a gym that the kids go to and learn how to, do all that stuff like they do on TV. The Ninja Warrior show.
So there's that's sort of like almost like choreography dancing. They don't actually smash each other with swords and things, right?
No, that's like I don't watch a lot of TV, but the Ninja Warrior is, I guess they do all the obstacle courses,
Okay.
so it's along those lines.
Okay. I was thinking more like Power Rangers. No, this is like strength and conditioning and that's
Absolutely, yeah.
that sort of challengey kind of thing. So I don't know, maybe you guys could trade.
We're coming to Asbury Park, actually.
Are you really?
Yeah.
The Circus Squad's coming to Asbury Park?
This summer, yes, absolutely.
If you tell Katie, she'll put it in the newsletter, right, Katie?
Yes, I will, and it gets to a lot of people. So, and I'm sure the kids would love that,
I need to get
and
you
the adults,
information.
and everyone in Asbury. It is a bit of a circus there, anyway. So,
Yeah. Katie is really serious about spreading the word, right?
Yes.
About all the things that are available. See, what's the newsletter that you print, that you send out every week?
So we work with the Ocean Resource Net, which is part of a network of resource nets throughout the state. And we send out a weekly newsletter based on, what's going on in Ocean County specifically, which is all on the Ocean Resource Net, which is oceanresourcenet.org.
So
And like I said, there's a resource net for every county
right.
throughout New Jersey.
People don't know this. It's amazing, like sometimes how well kept the secret can be, because people would only know about Ocean Resource Net as widely as your email list
Absolutely.
basically is.
Well, that, and it's, a network of providers throughout the county that serve children for all different reasons. So they're pretty aware. But outside of that bubble, yeah, it's tough to get the word out, or, word of mouth helps.
Yeah, I wonder if
You
people
know,
in other states might be able to, hit me up on Facebook or call in or something and tell us if there's something similar there. Now, so the state has the resource net and it's in every county.
Yeah, so it's an initiative that started in Monmouth County, I would say over 10 years ago, probably 13, and then Ocean soon followed and picked up this resource net. And then most recently in the last year, New Jersey's Children's System of Care really put forth an effort of making sure every county had one and working on getting the word out.
So really, they're just local directories of resources. And it's, even though we work with kids that have substance use, mental health, and intellectual and developmental disabilities, it's really about anything and everything, because the kids don't just need treatment. They need to just do what kids do, and the families need support, and it's just a local directory of everything going on, news and resources. So it's, pretty comprehensive.
Well,
housing, basic needs.
I love the way it's not just about children or just about one thing, because I think people are starting to understand now that it's important to sort of treat the whole families in these kinds of situations, and there are a lot more services available for that. Now, your actual title is the Director of Community Resource Development for an organization called the Ocean Partnership for Children.
Yes.
Right? So
Yep.
can tell us a little bit about what the Ocean Partnership for Children is and what they do.
So we are a private nonprofit, but we are Ocean County's care management organization, also known as a CMO. We have many names, but we're Ocean Partnership for Children, or the Ocean County's care management organization.
So you are...
And every county in New Jersey has a CMO, or a care management organization, but we're private nonprofits that just contract with the state.
So you are that for
the
Ocean
Children's System
County,
of Care.
right? You're that for Ocean
Yes.
County. Here in Trenton, we have the Capital County Children's Collaborative, which I think is the sort of the CMO, which means Care Management Organization.
Yes.
And so then is there one sort of leader CMO in each county? Is that how the whole thing is structured?
Yes. So this is, like I said, we're part of the greater New Jersey's Children's System of Care. And not only are there CMOs in every county, but mobile responses and family support organizations. And there's one number in the entire state that you would call, it's Perform Care, to access the services. So it's pretty simple.
Okay, so if people want access to the services, they call the Perform Care number.
That's right.
And then the Perform Care number refers them to the correct care management organization in their county.
Yes, or mobile response, so mobile response is, if there's a crisis going on that doesn't quite need, an emergency room visit or psychiatric emergency room visit or police intervention, but someone that comes out within an hour to help kind of de-escalate the situation. And they work with the families around 8 weeks, and quite often they refer, if there's an ongoing need, to the CMOs or the care management organizations. And we work hand in hand with the family support organizations, which are run by parents of children that have been through the system, so they have that lived experience. So it's really nice for the parents to have someone, they call them support specialists, that go in and, if the families wish, to work with, to support them, provide them some kind of, support. They have support groups for the youth, for the adults. So we're all part of this bigger system. So when you call Perform Care, you may be referred to any of them or an outpatient level of care if your needs aren't that high. Right. So the CMO kids, we work with the moderate, the higher level needs. But so if you can go to outpatient services and that works for you, you probably don't want to be involved with CMO or mobile response. So it's, but Perform Care can then direct the family to, to help them navigate all the resources and get to the right place.
Can I tell you what my biggest problem is? Because you seem like somebody I can talk to.
Sure.
My biggest problem is housing.
Yes.
Do you find that as well? I have kids aging out of foster care. And
yes.
they're lucky if they have a part-time job, and they're suffering anxiety. So they're under the care of a mental health professional. So I don't want to push them into full-time because, I'm not really sure that they're ready for it. And so, their take-home pay is about $600 a month. Now, how is a person who makes $600 a month supposed to find housing and be able to live? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but do you find that to be, housing to be like the single biggest issue the way I do, or are there other things that are on
It is a huge issue, and not just for youth, but for families, especially families that have youth with special needs, because the demands are just the stress, the the added cost of having a child, that added additional medical visits, or medication costs, just the stress associated with it. So I mean, it's hard enough for adults, and even just adults living on their own with mental health or any kind of behavioral health needs. So it just compounded for the youth, especially they're not. They don't always have a support system quite often. If they're living on their own and don't have a place to live at that age, that means they don't have support. They don't have a family usually. Yeah. They don't have any adults in their life that really can help them out. Not even just financially, but just say, this is how you fill out an application. This is how you find a place to live. I mean, that's if you have the money to do it. So we have full-time working adults that are working multiple jobs that can't even afford housing. So how are we expecting young adults to do that, or youth? It's and then we have the youth that are not high enough needs to maybe get in some kind of supportive housing or additional funding, yet they're not quite independent enough, even just because of their age, but because of their behavioral health needs, whether that's autism or depression or just any kind of, substance use, that they had family dysfunction. Mm-hmm. So it's a huge issue. And then without your basic needs being met, if you think of Maslow's hierarchy, without that bottom of the pyramid, your basic needs being met, you can't really focus on addressing your higher needs, which are emotional and things like that. So it's a huge issue, because you have to have your basic needs met before you can really worry about going to, therapy. I mean, you could still go, but you're not really going to thrive in those, in treatment when you're worried about where you're going to sleep and what you're going to eat. And then getting a job, or, having a car to get to the job. Right. Especially in Ocean County, we don't really have, transportation's another big need. So, yes, it's a huge struggle.
Wow.
And then we can't even find landlords to house the kids when they're going to get paid every month.
Yeah.
So
this is my new quest. I got to tell you, my new quest. I'm gonna get out there and beat the bushes, and find some people who are willing to give a kid a room in their house, maybe empty nesters. Give the kid a room in their house for maybe $200 a month. Something like that. A room, some kitchen privileges, and a washer dryer, right? And
easy.
And just do it because you care. You get $200 a month, but really you're doing it because you care. I'm wondering if the churches might be willing to cooperate in something like that, or the civic organizations like the Elks and the Moose Lodge.
Well, we had a youth that was 19 and just had nowhere to go after he was in treatment. And that's who stepped up. I put a mass email out to everyone, and someone from the church stepped up and said, I'm willing to help this kid out. Yeah. I mean, the roof over the head is great, but to have someone that cares is even better.
Right. And and I just feel like I have to circumvent the system somehow, because it seems like, especially in your county, somebody once said to me, your child needs to apply to, what was it? I don't know, HUD or the Housing Alliance or something like that. And if they get approved by them, then someone will be more willing to give them a room. And so every time I've had somebody try to apply to one of those services, those social services, right, they get rejected for some reason. Either they don't make enough money, or they make too much money, or whatever it is, there's a crack that they manage to fall through.
Mm-hmm. Your credit's not right.
Yeah.
They pull a lot of information, specifically for HUD, and they have certain parameters that you have to get to, a certain income that you have to make per month or every year. And you can't go over that, and maybe you need a certain amount of people in the household that have, if you want a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, you gotta have 2 kids or 3 kids, and just you. Like it's a lot of hoops, and that they make you have to wait 2 to 3 years to even get the opportunity to get an interview to get the apartment or what have you.
Right. Then there's the waiting list. Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into that. Social services, you go down there to. You get yourself a social worker, and maybe potentially they could find you a room or find you a place. But again, long waiting list and a whole slew of stipulations that you have to fall up under to maintain that.
Absolutely.
Eligibility requirements.
And
Yeah,
for
yeah.
young men, that's a whole different ballgame. Young women, young women, you have a better opportunity. Young men, that's a whole different thing.
I've even been told some weird things like, well, if he had a drug problem, or then we could help him, and somebody once said to me, if she was pregnant, then we can help her. Well, guess what? I met a girl like 3 or 4 days ago who's pregnant.
Yeah.
She's 8 months pregnant. Nobody's stepping up.
Yeah, or if you have another kid, then you're eligible for this.
Yeah.
Like, really? I'm having a hard time taking care of this. And you want me to add 2 more to that to be eligible for something else that it's just it's a lot of hoops. It's a lot.
Please tell me, Katie, you've been in the business for a while. Please tell me it's better than it used to be.
Well, I would say it is. Maybe there aren't as enough. If we're talking about housing, there aren't as many resources probably as there. There's a lack of resources, period. But there are a lot more people that are working together to try to figure it out. And I know there have been people throughout the years that have, but right now there's a lot of people that are working together to try to, collaborate, create partnerships, and just do things that make sense. For instance, like what you're doing, just getting to know people that are willing to say, hey, I'll reach out to the churches and see who can help. And you know what, I know this person at Board of Social Services, they can come in and tell us what they can do, so everyone's getting the same message. So, there's hope, at least. And there's, it's all about timing, with politics and getting the money that we need. There's a lot of people fighting for the same funding, especially when we're talking about human service types of funding and housing. There's a lot of it's not easy. There's a lot of money out there. It's just not coming to these to the people that really need it.
Well, I'm sure somebody's getting something somewhere, but every time I try to get housing and stuff for a kid, maybe you can demystify this for me, because I certainly can't. I've been trying to figure out lately exactly how wraparound funds work, because I've been told that you can use that until you age out. I've been told that you can only use it after you've aged out. I've been told that it has to be done through your DCP&P caseworker. I've been told it can only be done through Perform Care. I mean, every time I ask a different person, I hear a different story about how wraparound funds, are supposed to be used. Do you have experience with those at all?
Well, we have wraparound funds, but the question is, what wraparound funds are you talking about? Because the Children's System of Care, CMOs have them, Mobile Response has them, DCP&P, they have, I'm not sure that they call them wraparound funds. There's different lingo, and that's throughout the different, so HUD has certain lingo, Children's System of Care has lingo, DCPP has, so it's about understanding what we're asking. If we're looking for money to, get housing, we can help with short term, but it's not sustainable to pay, we need to find a more, what's the sustainable source? I mean, if you think about it, the amount of money that goes towards housing is, it's a drop in the hat of what's needed. There's a bigger problem going on, and it's just, there's not enough, jobs aren't paying living wages. So even for adults, it's a struggle. But the wraparound funds, they're there, but there's not that much of it. Especially, you're talking about the Children's System of Care alone is serving upwards of 15,000 people throughout the state, youth. And DCPP, that's a whole separate number. That's a whole nother definitely overlap. So there's just a lot of demand and not enough funding.
Yeah, and I presume the demand is increasing.
It has. We, for instance, in Ocean County, our CMO, we are now serving almost 1,000 kids. 5 years ago, we were serving 200. So, and that's without people even knowing really about the Children's System of Care. So somehow, every year, the numbers keep going up.
Yeah, wow.
And is it because people are more aware or not? I'm saying either way, there's still this need, which is, why is there this need? And we're moderate to high level need. We're not even just outpatient. Outpatients have been, just inundated. They can't keep up. So and I'm talking outpatient mental health treatment per se. So it's just the demand keeps going up for whatever reason, and there's just not enough, funding out there to meet the demand or available to meet the demand.
Yeah.
And it's also about trying to coordinate the system so you know what the demand is. What are the numbers? Without the numbers, it's hard to advocate for what we need.
Yeah, hard to quantify
So we're,
the need, yeah.
Yeah, but there are a lot of people working on it that really care, trying to navigate. It's a complex system, and it's complex. The politics of everything are very complex. So a lot of competing interests. And
you participate in what's called the point in time count, right? Which is trying to get a number on homeless population.
Yes.
In your area.
So one night a year, usually the last Tuesday of January each year, they do a point in time count. This is, it's done across the state and across, it's different times in different states, but in New Jersey it's in January. And that's really because the thought behind it is if you're truly homeless and living outside in January, then you're truly homeless. You're not just, whether you agree with that or not. But it's very difficult to get that because it's voluntary. People don't want to participate in the survey. People are afraid to, share their information. So it's always an underestimate of what's going on.
It bothers me, actually, when people use the term, like, rather. People would rather be homeless than be in the system. It's, nobody would rather be homeless. It's just, they're frequently picking the lesser.
They'd rather live where they're living than live in the options that are given sometimes. And that's what's sad.
Yeah.
I mean, that they could have a place to stay, but it's just so unappealing, and they're so, that they'd rather just go live in a tent.
Yeah.
There are some people that might prefer to live off the land, but overall it's not the case, and it's just because they'd rather not go stay at a shelter.
And it amazes me how many youth there are who are living in homeless situations.
And that's a struggle to identify too, because a lot of time people don't see that you're doubled up with another family, or tripled up, or you're sleeping on a couch, you're couch surfing every night. That's technically you're homeless, but a lot of people don't see it that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we tend to call that more like unstable housing, but yes, technically, that's a homeless situation. Katie, I could talk to you for hours, and I'm sorry, but we have to go. Will you come back another time, and you and I can rant together more?
Absolutely. We'll figure this out, try.
I would totally look forward to it, and I look forward to seeing your newsletters every week.
All right, great. Thanks so much.
Thanks. You have a good evening.
You too.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, Brad, you think we can take the Circus Squad and expand it maybe to a couple of other places? I don't mean that it'd be your responsibility, but you know what I'm saying? Like, share the concept.
That's actually the goal. That's actually the goal, to have institutions such as Trenton Circus Squad all around the country. Initially, we're going to try and expand. The goal is to expand into other counties. So we, go up to Newark, go up to Asbury, go to Camden, and have Trenton Circus Squads in the local.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to find the right people who are willing to sort of take that on. But it's just too cool.
We're building that.
Right. I'm asking the producers here. Isn't this just too cool? The bottom line about the Circus Squad is that it's just magic,
And in the backdrop again, the backdrop of what we do is she's saying, kids who don't have places to sleep, kids who can't find jobs, kids who don't have things to eat. These are all responsibilities that we take on when the kids are joining our squad. We take on these initiatives to help them achieve in more than just their circus skills.
Is there any help with transportation, getting them back and forth? That's a tough one, I know.
That is a tough one. Like I said before, we partner with organizations that have built-in transportation, and we also have transportation as well, where we can pick kids up and drop them off.
I'd love to see a partner with the Boys and Girls Clubs, just because they have such a great bus.
And we do
service. Oh, do you?
And we do. Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And do you guys
just jump right in, Ruben?
Oh, yeah. I was just trying to make it quick, so I know you're going to.
Yeah, we got to go.
You're looking for when you do the travel, you also need like venues, right?
Yes. Normally, whoever we're going to visit has the venue already set up for us. It's not something that we have to do.
Oh, okay.
We do the shows we have one coming up March 23rd. It's a fundraiser, Get On Down fundraiser. And we're putting that fundraiser together. That's going to be in our Roebling Wireworks building, 675 South Clinton. Okay. That's where they do art all night and the punk rock flea market as well. They have it for certain weekends. We pretty much have it all year long. So that's where the youth come. 50% of our youth are from Trenton. The other 50% are from the surrounding areas, and we like it that way. Keep it nice and balanced, and just different personalities and characters flowing through the building. And it gives the beauty in what I see in the organization is you see people from different walks of life who have to trust each other and have to work with each other and have to build this trust to do these very complicated circus acts. When you got somebody on the high wire, you have somebody standing on your shoulders, what have you, you have to be able to trust them to
absolutely,
to make sure they're going to do their part so you don't get injured or hurt or something of that nature. So, and you see individuals who may have never met in their life, but they're finding this common denominator that brings them together, and they form great relationships around it, and it's a beautiful thing to watch.
And people should know that it's actually a real facility.
Absolutely.
Where you do the training. When you walk in the door and you see the ring.
Absolutely.
You see the circus ring, you just start to feel the whole thing right away, and you see the practice wire.
Right. You see the trapeze, and the silk ropes hanging from the ceilings.
Yeah.
And it's like,
real.
Okay,
this
is official. This is real.
That's right. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another hour talking about youth who should matter more in our political and economic discourse.
Absolutely.
I hope you shared this with your friends on Facebook tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in, maybe helping us spread the word. Again, we offer a humble thanks to Hamilton Radio. To my most excellent guests, we started the night with Kimmy Carlos, Katie Colhoun, and of course Brad M. Jackson. We're going to play the show out tonight with another one of Brad's tracks.
Can I interrupt
okay?
you for a second?
Yeah, go right ahead.
You keep saying M. I appreciate that.
It said M.
M stands for Marquis. Brad Marquis Jackson. And I use that it's my name, but Brad Marquis is what I use when I'm performing.
Okay, so if we're looking up you on the internet for
Brad Marquis
for music, you'd be looking up Brad Marquis.
Yes.
How is that Marquis spelled?
Marquis.
Marquis.
And Brad has 2 D's. Yes, okay. My mama did that to me.
Yeah, Brad has 2 D's.
It has 2 D's.
I thought she was preparing you for a life in show business right
she
there.
Said, I don't want anybody calling you Bradley or Bradford or anything. It's Brad. That's it.
All right. So, Brad Marquis Jackson.
Hey.
Thanks for coming out, man. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me.
Katie Colhoun, Kimmy Carlos on the phone earlier tonight. Thanks to our engineer, Ruben. Our music is usually provided by Kurt Seldom Ridge, but I'm sorry, Kurt, you got knocked out tonight for Brad Marquis Jackson.
And you have my permission to keep using it.
And, that would be great. I'd really appreciate that. Our webmaster is Carmen Garcia Valera. Our social media specialist is Bailey Braverman. Join me next week, March 11th. Randy Mandelbaum and Judith Shane will be here. So until then, let's make this week the best week ever. Have a great
Are you still angry? I know you've been having trouble sleeping. You're thinking about leaving me. Baby, don't take your love from me. I'm feeling so lonely, baby. And we ain't made loving forever. But what do whatever storms? There's brighter days after cloudy weather.